Today I'm going to show you how to make Dutch baby pancakes or Pannekoeken. This is my grandma's recipe. It's easiest with a blender if you have one, but you can also do it with a hand mixer or a whisk where you just whip for a good 2 minutes to get a lot of air into the eggs. Before we get started, you'll want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll need the ingredients listed below and either a blender or a bowl and a whisk or a hand mixer. An oven-safe pan like a skillet, or but make sure it's oven-safe, or a glass dish, usually around 9 by 13 or close to there. So as you can see, I've already put the eggs in the blender, and I'm adding a half teaspoon of salt. And then it calls for 3/8 teaspoon of cinnamon. I usually just do a half teaspoon as well because it adds a good flavor. It's helpful to put the eggs into the blender first because if you put things like cinnamon and flour in first, they can get a little more stuck on the edges. If you're using a whisk, you want to whisk the eggs for 2 minutes and then add everything else whisking in. So now I'm adding the vanilla extract, a half teaspoon. And next we'll add, all we have left is the flour and milk. It's a cup and a half of each of those things. You can do half and half white flour and whole wheat flour. I just didn't have any whole wheat right now. That can add a little bit of a heartier flavor, and especially if you're going for any particular dietary concerns that you might want to lean towards whole wheat, it doesn't change the flavor a whole lot. With using the blender, I like to add the milk last because it kind of starts to mix in with the flour before I even start the blender. But if you're using a whisk or a hand mixer, you want to combine all of the liquid ingredients first. After whisking the eggs, add the rest of the vanilla extract and the milk, whisk those together some more, and then whisk in all of the dry ingredients, the salt and the flour. Before I blend everything, I put the butter in the pan in small slices and let it melt in the oven, because when we pour in the mixture and the fruit to bake, we want the butter to be just starting to bubble. You may want to pause to scrape down the sides to make sure all the flour and cinnamon are incorporated, because the dry ingredients can get a little stubborn and stick to the side of the blender. We want to just blend or whisk until everything is fully incorporated and smooth, and then a little bit more time to make sure that the eggs have a bit of air in them. We want to do this right before we're ready to pour them into the hot pan because it helps us get a nice rise on the crust as it bakes. So before we pour it in, we'll pull the pan from the oven, tilt it around to make sure the butter has greased up the sides, and then all we have to do is pour in the batter, pour the berries into that, and bake it for 20 to 40 minutes. You want to disperse the fruit evenly so that you don't have any big empty patches without any fruit. Now we'll bake it 20 minutes at 425 or until it isn't jiggly and it's a nice golden brown around the crust. As you can see here, mine was really undone at 20 minutes, and I actually ended up baking it for about 40. So after 20 minutes, I usually add 5 minutes and keep doing that and checking on it until it looks good. It should be anywhere between 30 and 35 often, but every oven is different. If you're not sure if it's done, you can poke it with a knife like I did, and it should come out clean. It's best enjoyed with a good cup of coffee or tea and some syrup if you have it.